Caitlin Clark has not even fully settled into her second full WNBA chapter, and yet somehow, she already feels like the center of a storm that is about to reshape the entire league. Not because of a scandal, not because of some overblown social media fight, but because of something much bigger, something that has every front office, every veteran, every coach, every rival fan base, and honestly, maybe even the league office itself paying very close attention. And that is this: if the WNBA does not fully understand what the 2026 season is about to become, Caitlin Clark could end up being both its biggest blessing and its biggest warning at the exact same time, because make no mistake, 2026 is not just another season. This is not a normal year where teams shuffle lineups, rookies arrive, contenders emerge, and we all pretend the old rules still apply. Those days are gone. The WNBA is entering a season where pressure has changed, money has changed, media attention has changed, expectations have changed, and most importantly, the standard has changed. And at the center of that standard is Caitlin Clark. Now, when people hear the phrase major warning, they immediately think controversy. They think she said something direct. They think she called out the league. But sometimes the loudest warning is not spoken in a press conference. Sometimes the warning is what a player represents. Sometimes it is what happens when one star becomes so impactful that the entire system around her is forced to either evolve or be exposed. And that is exactly where the WNBA is heading in 2026. Caitlin Clark is no longer just the exciting rookie who came in with sold-out arenas and impossible logo threes. She is no longer just the college sensation who brought millions of new eyeballs to women's basketball. She is no longer just the player casual fans tune in to see because they want to witness something spectacular. In 2026, Caitlin Clark is entering the phase where she becomes something far more dangerous for the rest of the league. She is becoming experienced, and that should terrify everyone, because if you watched her progression carefully, you already saw it coming. The early part of her pro career came with all the predictable noise: physical defenses, veteran tests, traps at half court, doubters saying the game was faster, stronger, more demanding, critics claiming the hype was too much. Every possession felt like a referendum. Every turnover became a headline. Every hard foul became a debate. But what many people missed during all that noise was that Caitlin Clark was learning in real time. She was not just surviving the attention. She was storing information. She was seeing coverages. She was learning how defenders wanted to push her. She was learning how coaches were designing entire game plans around stopping her. And now, by 2026, all of that knowledge becomes ammunition. That is the warning, because a version of Caitlin Clark with pro-level reps, improved strength, better timing, smarter pacing, and a deeper understanding of WNBA defensive schemes is a completely different weapon than the one the league first saw. The logo threes get all the clicks, but the real danger is not the shot. It is the processing speed. It is the playmaking. It is the way she can bend an entire defense just by crossing half court. It is the way help defenders start cheating to steps early. It is the way transition lanes open, because defenders are terrified of being embarrassed from 30 feet. It is the way teammates suddenly become more dangerous, because the gravitational pull around Clark creates space that did not exist before. And if that sounds dramatic, just look at what happens every time a transcendent passer reaches that next level. In professional basketball, once the game slows down for them, everything changes. The great ones stop reacting and start controlling. They stop trying to prove they belong and start dictating who survives around them. That is where Caitlin Clark is headed in 2026, and the rest of the WNBA knows it. Even if not everyone wants to say it out loud. But the warning is not only about her on the court. It is also about what she forces the league to confront off the court. Because the truth is, Caitlin Clark has become bigger than a single team's record, bigger than one rivalry, bigger than one stat line. She has become a pressure test for the WNBA itself. Can the league keep up with the demand she creates? Can it protect its biggest attractions while still preserving physical, competitive basketball? Can it expand smartly without watering down quality? Can it build schedules, broadcasts, arenas, and marketing strategies that actually reflect the audience growth stars like Clark are generating? That is why 2026 feels different. This is the season where the WNBA can no longer treat popularity spikes like temporary moments. The league is moving into a new era, and Caitlin Clark is the clearest symbol of that shift. If games keep selling out, if TV numbers keep climbing, if merchandise keeps moving, if new fans keep entering the ecosystem, then the old excuses disappear. Suddenly everything gets examined more harshly. Travel, officiating consistency, national TV placement, arena size, player visibility, marketing fairness, start treatment, competitive balance, expansion strategy, everything. And let's talk about expansion for a second, because this is where the 2026 season gets even more fascinating. The league is not just dealing with star power. It is dealing with change. New teams, new roster pressure, new front office decisions, new talent distribution. And expansion seasons are never as simple as they look on paper. They create opportunities, yes, but they also create instability. Veterans get exposed. Rotation players suddenly become starting-level valuable somewhere else. Teams that thought they had depth can lose it fast. Coaches that relied on continuity can suddenly find themselves rebuilding chemistry on the fly. In a season like that, a player like Caitlin Clark becomes even more dangerous. Why? Because chaos favors creators. When the league gets stretched, when defenses are still forming identities, when rotations are unsettled, when newer combinations are trying to communicate through screens and transition matchups, that is when elite decision-makers feast. One late switch, one missed tag, one hesitant hedge, one defender losing track of a shooter because Clark manipulated the angle half a second earlier. That is how games get broken open. So yes, if you are asking for a 2026 prediction, here it is plainly. Caitlin Clark is going to be even more productive, even more efficient, and even more central to the championship conversation than many people are ready to admit. I believe 2026 is the year she makes the leap from massive star to true MVP-level force, not just statistically, but structurally. The kind of player who changes the geometry of every game she plays. And once that happens, the Indiana Fever become one of the most dangerous teams in the league. That is the second part of the warning, because if Clark is healthy, if the chemistry around her continues to mature, if the roster around her understands how to weaponize the attention she draws, then Indiana is no longer a fun story. They become a real threat, a team nobody wants in a playoff series. A team that can flip a game in 3 minutes because one shooting burst suddenly turns a 6-point deficit into a double-digit lead. A team that can punish you from distance, in transition, and in late clock improvisation. And perhaps most importantly, a team that can mentally overwhelm opponents because there is no comfortable defensive coverage against a player who is willing to launch from places most defenders still think are safe now. Does that mean the rest of the league is just going to stand there and watch? Of course not. This is still the WNBA, and the elite teams are still loaded with talent, experience, and pride. The defending contenders are not disappearing. Veteran superstars are not handing over anything. The physicality will still be there. The scouting will be ruthless. The trash talk will be louder than ever. If anything, Caitlin Clark's rise only sharpens everyone else's edge. There will be players who take it personally. There will be teams that circle every Fever matchup. There will be national TV games that feel like playoff games in May. And that is exactly why 2026 might be the most entertaining WNBA season in years. Because for the first time in a long time, the league has multiple overlapping storylines that all feel huge at once. You have the established stars fighting to protect their era. You have the next generation trying to take it. You have expansion altering the ecosystem. You have fan interest exploding. You have media pressure increasing. And you have one player, Caitlin Clark, standing right in the middle of all of it. Not as a side attraction, but as a central engine. My bold prediction: the WNBA in 2026 becomes more star-driven, more polarizing, and more nationally visible than ever before. And with that comes both opportunity and risk. Opportunity because the league can finally capitalize on the kind of mainstream attention it has long deserved. Risk because once the spotlight gets brighter, every flaw becomes easier to see. If officiating is inconsistent, fans will notice. If scheduling feels unfair, fans will notice. If star matchups are not properly promoted, fans will notice. If player safety becomes a talking point, fans will notice. The margin for error gets smaller when the audience gets bigger. And that is why Caitlin Clark is a warning. Not because she is a problem, but because she exposes every problem the league can no longer hide behind growth stage excuses. Superstars do that. They force infrastructure to catch up. As for the actual 2026 title race, I think it is going to be brutal. I expect at least 3 or 4 legitimate contenders entering the heart of the season. I expect the top of the standings to be tighter than people think. I expect one veteran powerhouse to underperform because of chemistry or injury issues. I expect one surprise team to rise faster than expected because expansion reshuffles opportunity. And I absolutely expect the Fever to be in the middle of the storm. If Clark stays healthy, I would not be shocked at all if she puts up one of the most talked about seasons in recent WNBA memory. We are talking huge scoring nights, high assist numbers, deep shooting stretches that go viral across every sports platform, and the kind of signature performances that turn neutral fans into believers. I also think she will face more strategic defensive attention than almost anyone in the league. Teams are going to blitz her. They are going to body her. They are going to force the ball out of her hands. They are going to test her patience. But the scary part for them is this: the more attention she draws, the more important her evolution as a creator becomes. And if she has truly reached that next level of reading the floor, then over-defending her could become the very thing that destroys you. That is what great offensive engines do. They make your best defensive idea feel wrong. And one more prediction that a lot of people might not want to hear. The cultural divide around Caitlin Clark is not going away in 2026. In fact, it may intensify. There will still be people who say she is overhyped. There will still be people who say she gets too much attention. There will still be debates over media treatment, respect, physicality, race, marketing, and what kind of player should represent the face of the league. All of that will still exist. But what changes in 2026 is that the basketball itself may become too undeniable to dismiss. When a player keeps producing, keeps drawing audiences, keeps warping defenses, keeps elevating team relevance, eventually the conversation shifts from "is she really that important?" to "what do we do now that she clearly is?" And that is the real warning to the WNBA. Because 2026 is not just about whether Caitlin Clark becomes even better. It is about whether the league becomes better around her, whether it can embrace the moment without resisting it, whether it can grow without fracturing, whether it can honor the veterans, celebrate the present, and still fully invest in the future that is arriving whether people like it or not. The most powerful thing about Caitlin Clark right now is not just that she can hit impossible shots. It is that she has become impossible to ignore. And in sports, once that happens, the entire landscape starts moving. Ticket prices move. TV windows move. Sponsorship conversations move. Opposing scouting reports move. Social media narratives move. Front office urgency moves. Even other stars move differently because they understand the spotlight has shifted. So when we say Caitlin Clark's major warning to the WNBA, maybe the warning is simple. Adapt now. Because if you don't, she is going to force adaptation anyway. And if that sounds like hype, just wait. Wait until the first month of the 2026 season when the arena is packed before warm-ups even begin. Wait until the first nationally televised game where she pulls up from the logo and the crowd erupts. Before the ball even drops through the net. Wait until defenses panic, rotations scramble, and analysts start saying the game looks different when she's on the floor. Wait until Indiana starts stacking statement wins. Wait until the MVP conversation gets uncomfortable for people who still want to pretend. This is just a popularity wave, because by then, the warning will not be theoretical anymore. It will be real. And the scariest part for the rest of the WNBA, Caitlin Clark might just be getting started.